Let's have a look at the text, friends. So again, this week's parsha, Moishe Rabbeinu says as follows. It's the first text I sent you. The whole Sefer Dvarim, my dear friends, is the first Fabrengen. It's Mamish Fabrengen. Moishe Rabbeinu, it's a 37-day Fabrengen. He begins on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, and he ends on the day of his passing, the 7th of Adar, 37 days. And it's inspiring, he's giving musar, he's expressing much love, he's revealing profound detail of the mitzvahs in Torah. It just occurred to me the other day, this is Mamish, the Rebbe's Fabrengen. There's no parallel so powerful in all of history to Sefer Dvarim than our Rebbe's Fabrengen is. Mamish this. We repeat many things many times over and over again. There's one thing Moishe Rabbeinu repeats over and over again this is very critical, just by the way. The one thing that's repeated in Sefer Dvarim, I didn't count how many times, but over and over again, you were there. You were there. You saw this. This is a very critical point, friends. A very critical point. We'll just quickly address it in parenthesis before we get into the subject matter. But how do we know logically that the Torah is true? How do you know it's true? So there's endless answers to this question, but the most basic and elementary answer is because the people that were witness passed down a document that says we were there. How do we know any event in history is true? Why do you believe George Washington existed? You ever saw him? No. Did your grandfather see him? Your parents also not. Why do you believe him? Because rational people believe in what's called the historical record. The historical record is if an event is witnessed and recorded and so on and so forth by many people, then it's fact. Aside from other supporting evidence, but it's really the testimony of history is the witnessing to the witness to history. So what's the Torah? This is Sefer Dvarim primarily. It's a document that the people gave their children that says, we were there. That's what the kids get. There's no event in history that's been so faithfully recorded and transmitted like the Torah. Many copies were made. And we have this, and the copies are all the same thousands of years later without a discrepancy. And what does it say? And he reminds them again, you were witness to this, to the Exodus and the Kriyas Yamsuf and the giving of the Torah. I'm not speaking to your children, and I'm not telling you something that your forefathers experienced. And this is all written down and then given to the children. It doesn't get off the ground. It doesn't get off the ground if that's not what it was. In great numbers. And that's why the people, when they rebelled and had all kinds of tinus, they could never say, this is not true, we're not doing this. You were there. You received the Torah. The only taina, the only rebellion was, you want more. Why only you in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? We also want to be in Kodesh HaKadoshim. But nobody can argue that it's not true. That Torah is not true. Shabbos Tefillin is not true. They argued it's too difficult, it's too hard, we're tired, we're hungry, it's enough. But it's not emes. You were there. Again, the only argument was also mentioned this week's parsha. It reminds me of Kodesh is, and that was the opposite argument. We all want to be in Kodesh HaKadosh. It's not fair, only you. But there's no argument that it's not so. It's a critical point. It's a critical point. That all other religions begin without distinction. One person claims God spoke to me. Yoshke, Muhammad, Lahavda, Elef Havdalas. Confucius, whoever they found as a Buddha. So you believe him or not? He's charismatic and influential in politics and power, exploitation, and how do they get the people? It's one of two ways. You seduce them through pleasure. That was mainly the religions of the day, all hedonistic. Come join, it's a lot of fun. Or force you with a sword, crusades. Yeah, it's not how it worked in the desert. Not pleasurable, not force. Influence, inspiration. And primarily because you saw this. That's it. So you saw God revealed at Sinai, and there's no arguing with that. And thereafter, how do we spread Yiddishkeit? Through its truth. Not come because this is fun, and not if you don't, we'll kill you. Learn it and discover the truth of it yourself. No other faith works this way. Because it's the emes. But again, it all begins with, it's critical. Millions, we get the time, the date, the location, we get the number. 600,000 it's so detailed. Men between 20 and 60. So we double it. Women extrapolate, it's 2-3 million people. It's a lot of people. You get hardcore numbers in terms of the male population and their age. And exactly the date. And this is all written. And then, Kinderlach, take this and give it to your children. Everybody's encouraged to make copies, a mitzvah to write your own Torah from the get-go. Every tribe had their own, and the people wrote their own, and Moishe wrote his own immediately. That's given to the next generation that says, we were there. There's no event in history that was witnessed by so many people at once, recorded and faithfully kept, transmitted throughout. There's no event in history like it. So objectively, how do we know? How? This is the one thing you really know. Everything else we can debate. This is as hardcore evidence can possibly get. It's not the only explanation or how you know it's true. Ultimately, how you know it's true, because go in your own heart, that's all. Resonates or doesn't resonate? It does. Okay. So that's actually all tied into our subject. So let's look at the first quote. So I'll just read the English. So Moishe says, and he, the Abish, afflicted you and let you go hungry and then fed you with the manna, which you did not know, nor did your forefathers know, so that he would make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but rather by whatever comes forth from the mouth of Hashem, man lives. There's no bread, we got you manna. Okay. So it says in Medrash, and likewise in the Gemara, the deeper meaning here is not simply you were afflicted and hungry, and then he fed you manna. No, it's one statement. The man causes affliction and hunger. How does the man cause affliction? It's all one statement, not you were hungry, you were afflicted, and then later he fed you the man and you were no longer afflicted and hungry. That's the simple meaning of the pasuk, but the Medrash understands it because it's all and, it's one flow, likewise the Gemara in Yuma, that it's actually saying he afflicted you and made you hungry and fed you the man with the man. The simple meaning to that is, explains the Medrash, because you couldn't see the food, so it didn't satisfy fully. That's number one. A big part of the pleasure of to tell you of food is the presentation and seeing it. That's why it's a mitzvah. It's one of the reasons for the mitzvah that the Nevi'im, the early prophets, enacted to light Shabbos candles. There's two reasons. And enjoy the Shabbos meal. And secondly, people shouldn't stumble and trip over things, and that will cause strife. People will blame each other. Why will it cause strife? Because you put it there. That's going to be the natural instinct. It's your fault, right? So to avoid that, we need light. All to say that if you don't see what you're eating, especially since the manna, it looked like little white crystals. That's what it looked like, coriander seed, white. It just didn't satisfy that way. That's number one. Second reason why it didn't satisfy is because, next point, we're going to go into the depth of it, is because it fell every day for its portion. You couldn't leave over for the next day. If you did, it got wormy. So therefore, why doesn't it satisfy? In the words of the Gemara, you can't compare someone who has bread in his basket for tomorrow for someone that doesn't have bread in his basket for tomorrow. I have enough to eat today, but I don't have enough to eat tomorrow. I'm not even enjoying today properly. There's already a hunger today. You have enough to eat today, but what's going to be tomorrow? So you can't even enjoy today. There's no money in the bank for tomorrow. I have it today. So since the manna only fell each portion each day, if it didn't satisfy, like someone who has bread in his basket, in his pantry. That's another reason, says the Gemara. Now, the next quote, I didn't send the Zohar. I didn't send the Zohar. I did. Where is it? Yeah, the next quote from the Zohar. Let's have a look at the Zohar. Now we're going to explain why as follows. Why, on the one hand, the manna is rooted in Shabbos, and yet it doesn't fall on Shabbos. It only falls during the week. It didn't fall on Shabbos. Yet manna and Shabbos are synonymous. We're going to explain the depth of this. But first, let's read the Zohar. The quote above them, pasuk number 4, that's from Beshalach, not this week's parsha, Beshalach. Just read it. So Hashem said to Moishe, behold, I'm going to rain down for you bread from heaven, and the people shall go out and gather what is needed for the day, that I can test them whether or not they will follow my teaching. Will you have simply meaning? Will you have faith that tomorrow bread will also fall? And just by the way, I mentioned this. This is the reason Friday night, the chal on the table represents the manna. That's why there's two breads, because two portions fell on Friday. And we put it on a plate and we cover it with a cover, because the manna fell with dew. Then the manna had a ceiling of dew below and above. Why? Because every Friday night on Shabbos, a Yid is reminded, Parnasa is manna from heaven, and God will provide. And that's why Shabbos, if you really touch Shabbos, there's no worries. There's no money in the bank. God forbid, should never happen to anybody. Hashem will provide. Manna. Trust, open up to the blessing, it will come. Close brackets, a very big part of the message of manna. In the words of Chassidus, it's still manna from heaven, just going through the channels of nature. Nothing changed. God's still the sole provider. We just make the vessel. So now let's look at the Zohar. Now we'll get it's already okay. Vayomer Moishe Aleihem. So the Zohar says in Pashas Beshalach, and Moishe said to the Yidden, Al Yosim and Manna ad Boker, we just read that quote, did not leave over till the morning. That's, we actually didn't quote that, but that's what Moishe that conveys into the Yidden. Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rabbi Yehuda, this is from the Holy Zohar, every day, Mizbarich Olma Me'ahu Yom Ilah. Every day the world is blessed from that supernal day. What's that supernal day? Shabbos. He spells it out. All 6 days are blessed from the 7th day. Every day gives the blessing that it receives from that day. So the blessings that we get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all given when? On Shabbos. So far, so good. Now, Valdo Moishe Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, that's why Moishe Rabbeinu said to the Yidden, Ishal Yosef and Men al Boker, don't leave over from one day to the next. My timer, why? What's wrong? Begin in order to lo yohiv, not to give, lo Yosef, and not to borrow or lend. One day shouldn't give or even lend to the other day. Each day rules, as it were, independently on its own. Its own day. One day should not rule or affect the other day. Question. Why is this? He's saying like this, because he says two statements. The first statement is clear. Every day is blessed from Shabbos. Then he goes on to say, and that's why you can't, one day may not give or even lend to another day. Why not? What's one got to do with the other? On the contrary, if every day is blessed from Shabbos, we expect it to be unity, integration between one day and the other. What is the meaning of this statement? Because every day is blessed from Shabbos, the man comes from Shabbos. Therefore, each day stands alone and independent. And Moishe is warning the Yidden, don't leave over for the next day. What's the connection? Why not? And why is no manna falling on Shabbos? If it's all rooted in Shabbos, so why doesn't it come down on Shabbos? In other words, you would have thought manna should come down on Shabbos for the whole week. That's the logical way. It's the source of blessing. So on this day, we get the bracha for the whole week. And then every day we take it all comes down on that day fully. And each day we take as much as we need for that day. No. Shabbos, nothing falls. It all comes from Shabbos. And strangely enough, what is this business about one day not lending to the other? To understand this, let's look at the next quote. All right, we'll explain it next week. We'll go into more detail. We're going to start now. Friends, this is very deep and very powerful. I'll give you the bottom line today. We'll go into more detail next week, Be'ez Hashem. The Pasuk says, V'korosa l'Shabbos oinig. You shall call Shabbos a day of delight. That's the mitzvah of oinig Shabbos, to delight in Shabbos. We're going to explain what tainug means. What does the delight mean? It doesn't just mean have a good time. Enjoy. What does it mean? We'll see presently, but let's look at the word oinig. The word oinig, ayin nun gimel. Ayin stands for Eden, nun is Nahar, Gimel is Gan. Eden is Eden, Nahar is the river, Gan is the garden. As in the next pasuk. This is a quote from Bereshis, chapter 2, pasuk 10. V'nohar yoytze me'eden lahashkris esagon. A river flowed out of Eden to water the garden. Umishom yipoded, and there it spread the water. V'hoyel arba roshim became 4 rivers, 4 tributaries. Just going to tell you that these few cryptic words are description of the highest levels of the divine in the whole process of creation. The 4 rivers being spoken about here are the 4 worlds we're familiar with. Atzilis, Bri, Yitzir, Asi, the 4 spiritual worlds. Our universe is at the bottom of this ladder, this divine chain. And these cryptic words are describing the whole process of divine revelation. And where does it all start? It starts with Eden. And then it flows into the river and then finally into the garden. We're going to focus on the word Eden. Eden means delight. It's what it means. Pleasure. Paradise. Gan Eden is referred to as paradise. What is pleasure? So let's first define pleasure. Pleasure, as explained in Chassidus, tainug, is the deepest, most essential level of the soul. Lower than that is will. Lower than that, we're going externally, manifesting, projecting out from the essence of the soul, is intellect, and the 3 stages to intellect, and then comes emotions, and finally behavior. Now, the difference between tainug and all of the other levels, will, understanding, emotion, behavior, is all of the other levels are the way I engage the world. It's all for an agenda. I want this for this. When you understand something, it's not who I am. It's something out there. I'm trying to figure it out. It's outside my consciousness, and I'm understanding it. Emotions, clearly, it's an emotional relationship with something other. I want it, I love it, I'm afraid of it. And behavior certainly is leaving my mark on the world. They are all projections away from self. They're all engagements, they're all pursuits. What's tainug? Tainug is a moment that is in and of itself. That's me, not a means for an end. I want something, it's all a means. I understand something. I'm loving something. Pleasure is the expression of the essential self. People rarely have experienced tainug. Because if it would be true tainug, then you wouldn't tire of it and it wouldn't be the next thing, the next experience. It's not an experience. Tainug is when the essential self is expressed. What tainug is, it may be the deepest example on a physical level, on a human level, physical level, conscious level, we're talking human, of tainug is the pleasure to be alive. It's so deep you're not conscious of. It's only when you're challenged, your life is challenged, then you start to appreciate the fact that you're alive. Tainug is so deep, it's so deep that it's not given to definition. You're not even conscious of it. You lose all sense. You don't entertain. You don't consider. When you're having Tanug, there's no part of you that's considering, oh, I'm having a good time. Then it's not Tanug. If you're considering it, then you're involved, engaged on a level outside of self. You're so fully there, so engaged, that there's no considering it. You're in the moment. It's so deep that it's not given to analysis or consideration, which is an outside part of you considering what's happening inside. It's the being. It's being. Everything else is performance to one degree or another. Intellectual performance, emotional performance, engagement, pursuit, agenda. This isn't agenda, this I am. Tainug is I am. On the Shabbos, Shabbos is a day of delight. What does this mean? And we'll get to the Manna, explain all the details later. On Shabbos, Hashem reveals as follows. My deepest desire, Tainug, is you, is to be one with you. Friends, the moment of absolute oneness, they become one. This moment of, this is sharing the self, the deepest self with an other in the most intimate, deepest way. This is not about an experience, not about a shared activity. It's not about an it is being. It is being in the deepest way. And that's what Shabbos is. And David is saying that the whole creation, the whole kit and caboodle, what's it all about? Because of my desire to be one with you. That's the Dira Lo Yizborah. What's the heart of a home is the bedroom. And the bedroom is actually called in Sefer Shmuel, the Kodesh HaKadosh, the Holy of Holies in the Beis HaMikdash is called Cheder HaMitas. It's called a bedroom. Because that's where Hashem and us are one in the deepest way, nothing else. But that's the whole point of all of creation. The whole world should reflect that in different levels and different dimensions and aspects. What? Yidden and the Eibishter are one. Now I'm just going to cut to the chase of this, and we'll explain it at God willing next week, because there's so much detail needs to be addressed. Shabbos is when this truth is revealed. On Shabbos, we are all elevated. God says, come in, kindalach, to the depth of me, and I want you to touch the depth of me, and then you will discover that the depth of me, my essential delight is you, being one with you in the deepest way. That's what it's all about. We're not engaging the world right now. We're not bringing it down. We're not building the world, the home to reflect that oneness. This is just the pure articulation of what the divine intent is. One day the world will be Shabbos forever. The world will be a home for God, and this truth will be revealed, that the Eibishter and a Jew is one in the deepest way. I want to get into the very important punchline here. So Shabbos, no manna falls. It's the source. It's the pure touching God's delight within God, higher than creation. Come in. God brings us in to the Reshus HaYochid. On Shabbos, we're not allowed to go from an enclosed area to an open area. It's one of the laws of Shabbos. It's the first law of the Tractate Shabbos. It's the strangest of all laws. I can't carry this from inside. What's going on? I'm not changing anything, not doing anything. Where's the great creativity? But that's the essence of Shabbos. Shabbos, we're all in the Reshus HaYochid. Shabbos are all in the singular domain. It's the Holy of Holies, one with Hashem in the deepest way, as it were, beyond the world, the domain of the many multiplicity, which is the world out there that we have to make Shabbos one day and turn it into the Reshus HaYochid. Now it's a world of the marketplace, of competition, of strife. I need to stop. So I'm just going to say this. At loose ends, I know, but why is it that one day cannot give to the other? Bottom line is because, well, we need to realize that every moment is everything for the Eibishter. Every moment that you let God into your life and do a mitzvah, which could be every moment, that's everything. Perfect. No need to lend and borrow and fix. It's not a whole big edifice. And one thing in itself, not really significant, but it's part of many other things, it becomes valuable. That's a building. That's when you engage in pursuits. But when it's about being, then every moment is everything. One day doesn't give for the next. Every day you should know, if you bring Shabbos into the weekday, that's the whole idea of the Havdalah spilling into the cup below. The Koros of the Shabbos Einig, it blesses the 6 days of the week. You have to recognize that every your tefillin, your Shabbos, and the moments that you are godly aware, you bring the Eibush into your business, that moment, says the Eibush, is everything. One day doesn't borrow or lend. It's all absolutely perfect. My delight in you is here and now, and in every moment of your life. Every detail of your moment is everything. God willing, we'll elaborate and explain next week and other nuances and details in the story of the man. But I just hope that we need to elaborate that this is clear. God's desire revealed on Shabbos is a relationship with us in the deepest way, being one. And every moment of oneness, every moment is everything. It's perfect. And it's in every detail. We have to bring this in every detail. If you eat, you sleep, you live, you love, you engage in business, and you do so as a Yid. So you should know this causes the God the deepest delight. He is one. I don't feel it right now, but I will. One day the world will be Shabbos, will feel every moment being. Every moment of Shabbos is a taste of this. Every moment of Shabbos is not a means for an end. Every moment of Shabbos is to feel Hashem's delight in us and our delight in Him. What does delight mean? It's not a means for an end. This is beyond an experience. This is fun, wonderful, fulfilling, enjoyable. This is the emes. This is you. That's what every moment of Shabbos is. Friends, to be continued, Be'ez Hashem.